able to come over to America and be able to do anything is because of the hard work, the blood, the sweat, the fighting, and the dedication of African Americans who on this soil changed this land. African Americans are the ones who got this country integrated. Let me explain something to you. White people in this country did not give us anything. We have had to take. And this is why you see what is going on in the news and the media right now. We took in the 1960s what it is that we had. We took their lynchings, their terrorizing, their burning down of our neighborhoods, and we continue to rebuild and rebuild and revisit and retwist and re-rise up what it is that we have done in this country. And the only reason why anybody can bring their black ass over here from another mother effing country is because what black Americans have done on this land. And I'm saying this as a person who is bicultural, whose father is not American, doggone it. My father is an immigrant, and he was able to come over to this country and do something in this country because of the black people who fought, who died, who bled, who were lynched on this land. So don't sit your black ass over there in some other goddamn country talking about what you would do in America. The only reason why your black ass could even get the F over here is because of what we have done. Doggone it. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. The reason why people are able to get onto the radios in America is because what black Americans have done, the culture that we have created with nothing. Nothing. We have been given nothing. Everything that we have in this country, we have because we have taken. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. So don't sit your black ass over there in your country where you're not doing what you need to do with your government. If anything, you should feel inspired by African Americans, inspired to pick up your picket sign and take your ass off your seat and go out there in the streets and protest in your damn land. Listen to what it is that I'm saying, because I was over there in Nigeria. I walked the streets of Lagos, Abuja, and where was it that I was? It was not Owerri. I was in, I'll just say Igbo land. I walked the streets and I saw what it was and I saw what it was like. And I talked to Nigerians, and part of the issue is that there is a docility that exists inside of the average Nigerian that I spoke to. Had a complacency and a docility that exists in there when it comes to their government. And then, right? The nerve of anyone to suggest that because of the type of trauma that you experience in your country, the type of brainwashing that you exist in your country is different than the type of trauma and brainwashing that we have existed in this country, that somehow that makes you better? No. Part of the reason that Nigeria looks the way that it is right now is because Europeans ran roughshod over that country. Europeans ran roughshod over Nigeria. Took down your symbols and put up their own, implanted you with their religion, have you worshiping white skin. And then after they sucked and siphoned from the country enough, then they started implanting the leaders that they wanted who would fulfill their white supremacist agenda. And so now you have government officials who don't give a good goddamn about the average Nigerian, because they take their money and they put their money abroad and they leave you there without lights 24 hours a goddamn day. Meanwhile, they got lights. I've been to Banana Island. I see what rich Nigerians live like. Speaking of which, if I were to come to Nigeria with my American mindset, I would be rich in Nigeria, because I'm not from Nigeria and I don't have the same type of indoctrination that Nigerians have. So when you start trying to say that you will come over to America and do all this, that, and bravo, because you've been trained in a different way. If I went to Nigeria, listen, I was in Nigeria 3 weeks before I made it over to Banana Island. And when I spoke to one of my Nigerian friends, I didn't realize how difficult of a thing that is for the average Nigerian. So don't sit there and start talking about how you would do so much different. If anything, this is the time right now that we need to come together. Instead of being in your colonial programming and mindset, instead of that, release those shackles. Release those shackles and realize that what African Americans are doing and have done in this country is remarkable. It is revolutionary. We have changed this world, goddammit, because if it wasn't for African Americans, Black people would still be in the goddamn zoo. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. Listen, we are all African. My ancestors were kidnapped Nigerians and kidnapped Ghanaians. We are all African, all of us. So don't be jealous because our ancestors were stolen and yours were left back there. Did you want to go through this here? Did you want to? Did you want to go? Listen, by the time slavery on this soil ended, there were 600,000 babies on this land. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. 600,000. That doesn't even count the amount of children that were fed to alligators. It doesn't count the amount of children from backbreaking work who were never born. 600,000 more. You want to know how many have to exist for 600,000 of those to result in a pregnancy? And then under those hard conditions for it to result in the birth of a baby. You want to know how many had to take place? Listen, don't be jealous because of what it is that we have done. I have a blue passport because my family was born on this God-forsaken land. And I am going to get everything that is due by my birthright of this nation, me. But I'm not going to discount the experience of another person who is more mentally enslaved than I am. I speak about this all the time. And you all know, listen, I love my Nigerian people. I do. Like I said, I'm genetically Nigerian. You look at my father, you see an Igbo man. However, my father was not born and raised on this funky land. He was not born and raised in the mental slavery, the drudgeons thereof that have enslaved mentally the people who are on this land, some of them. Because many of them have risen to be able to get us the level of human rights that we have now. And still, every 20 to 30 hours, a Black person is murdered by the police in this country. And then you see we got effing vigilantes out there killing Black people too. Karens harassing us when we just try to live. We got your bubbas and your rednecks hunting us down when we try to jog and exercise. We got hooded men who came by, poured gasoline on the things that we have built and burnt them to the ground. And we got more hooded men who put on badges every day, gavels in their hand, scalpels in their fingers, and steering wheels in their palms. We have policymakers in this country whose forefathers wore hoods and them who still have the hooded heart. And when I say hooded, I'm talking about the Klan, baby. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. So no, don't sit over there in some foreign land talking about what it is that you would do in America, because if you were born on this land entrenched in the funk and the foulness that exists on this land, you would be just as mentally enslaved, just as mentally entrained as the people who are here. So don't think that because your trauma is different than ours, that there's something better about your trauma. Because if anything, just the mere fact that you even dream, that you salivate of going to another land, shows and tells that there's something going on yours that needs to be fixed. So rather than going off and talking about all of the things that you would do in America, please do them in Nigeria. Fix your government, rise up, do whatever it is that you need to do on your land. It's time that we came together, and it's like there's so many people out there who are puppets and arbiters for white supremacy, puppeting racist ideals and racist ideas that they've been taught by the supremacist regime. And part of the issue is, and I'm going to say this and then I'm going to get out. I'm going to say this and then I'm going to jump off the video. In America, our racism is overt. They try to dog whistle it every once in a while, but it's overt. You can see from the numbers, you can see from the way Black people are treated. It's overt here. Where colonialism existed, it's insidious and it's silent. You don't really know that it's there, but you know, it's like you feel like the frog in the water, where the heat is turning up slowly. You don't know what it is, but you're feeling uncomfortable. So that it's so much easier for you to sit on the internet and talk about what you would do in America, fantasizing about the rights and the privileges that have been gained off the backs of the same people that you disrespect, rather than getting up off your ass and doing that in your own land. Listen, if anything, I prefer the racism of the United States to the racism that exists in the UK, to the colonial mindset that exists in many African countries and in Caribbean islands. I prefer it because these people, they don't mince words. They tell you how they feel. They show you how they feel with their policy. Meanwhile, in other countries, it's silent and deadly because you're sitting there. Listen, we talked about this when I was in Nigeria. Monthly salary. What was the monthly salary when we talked? $150 per month? 150 US per month in Nigeria. I think the salary was $30 a week. I was at a hotel where I was spending $160 a day. There was half a month's pay for the man who took my money. Half a month's pay.
Let me just say, I want to give a shout out again. I don't know who this woman is. As listed, this was a older video. We can obviously tell by the film footage, by the quality of the film, that it was a older video. Not sure how old it was. I'm going to say probably like, maybe like some 2015, 16, 17, 2012, somewhere in there, right? Anyways, I want to give a shout out to this woman for what she stated. Now, again, I'm looking past, a lot of things that she said, right? Where she wanted to, pretty much do the whole thing that we've normally been having to have conversations with and, in a sense, part ways directly with or split directly from, which was the whole notion of quote unquote African American. And I want to note that the main person that came up with that is Jesse Jackson. And I gave a video and I showcased that before, and also went over the information on the fact of that, it was pretty much there during the 90s, but it didn't really start to pick up speed up until 2000. And that's when people really started using it and, things of that nature. And now we're at the point in time of just saying, Black American or whatever it is that people want to specifically state, because we're at a time of which people are understanding that we have been rebranded and consistently rebranded in order to hide or to move away from the truth that is actually there, that is actually present. So people are putting stopping points, their own stopping points. Like, all right, this is basically me. This is what I'm going to list myself. This is what I'm going to specifically call myself. I don't care. Whatever it is that, people from the islands are basically calling me. I don't care what Africans are calling me. I don't care what white folks are basically calling me. This is what I'm specifically listing for myself and my family, or, however it is that people want to go directly about it. But with a lot of passion, she stated that if it were not for Black Americans, for the hard work, the dedication, the due diligence, for the courage, for the integrity, for the willpower, if it wasn't for a lot of other things that are not even being listed, if it was not for Black Americans going through what it is that they went through and pushing through that, there will be no space for anybody else here. And this also goes directly into the video that I brought to you guys about Mamdani. I want to make sure I get his name correct. And his speech that he stated after he won, where he stated that immigrants are pretty much the sole reason of why it is that New York is New York. And I also want to place that in a broader sense, right? That if you look at it, a lot of other folks directly out here want to say that America is the way that it is all because of immigrants. And I'm like, so people just forgot it. So we're just washing over slavery. That just didn't happen. It didn't exist. Nobody, went directly through it. All documentations are false. Any types of information that we got about it is completely false. It's hearsay. It's made up. But the one thing that we do know is that immigrants are here and immigrants are working, and immigrants got, bodegas and shops and all this other type of stuff, driving taxi cabs and, being entrepreneurs. So we're just going to skip over any and everything that Black Americans have done and contributed to the reason why it is that immigrants are even able to come here and speak the way that they're able to speak at this moment in time. That's what we're doing. That's crazy to me. That by itself is 100% crazy. But again, shout out to this woman for being as passionate as she is. And again, she is both. She's half and half. And matter of fact, the video, looking at her face in this video, I think I might have covered one of her videos before, because there was an African woman, short hair just like hers, and she stated that Africans, wherever they go, they don't come to build, they come to take. And she was honest. She was like, yeah, when I go to other countries, like, I'm seeing what it is that I can take. I'm not there to build. I'm not there to formulate bonds or to share with people. I'm there to take. And that was an African being 1000% honest about her people. She knows her people better than I know her people. So I know that when she's speaking, she knows exactly what it is that she is speaking directly about, right? She raises, she's been around, right? She is more than likely dated, and so on and so on and so on. So she has the insight. She knows the community. She knows the people. She's grown up, right? There's a certain type of culture. There's a certain type of energy. There's a certain type of familiarity that is there. So again, as I've stated before on this platform, I respect those who are honest. I respect those who will speak about things that other people don't want to specifically speak about or bring up. We have too many people directly out here who are immigrants, especially those who are African and other melanated ones directly out there, that decide that they want to, spin their own narrative. They want to put out their own story. And I'm like, that's a little bit crazy. And then while doing that, they want to gloss over what it is that Black Americans have already done and contributed, and then take that over. And then they want to repurpose that and co-opt it and basically say that they're the ones that originally did it, because look at our people way back in this time frame, and we were already basically working on this. And they want to do all of those things and try to give very little credit when it deals with Black Americans. This again shows the fact of how ungrateful a lot of people are. And it also speaks volumes about how people value Black Americans in general. These are the same groups out there that sit up there and say that, oh, Black Americans, y'all don't got no culture. Everybody else, 99.9% of the world has a culture. Black Americans, you are that 1% that does not. That's what they say online every time. And I'm talking about from all walks of life. And I'm like, that's a little bit weird. I'm like, everybody just came down to this main one general consensus that Black Americans have no culture, but yet because our culture is so globalized, this is why it seems that way. Because everything that we do here in the United States, you guys are doing around the world, but it's like you guys don't even notice it. And you guys think that you're the ones that did it. Speaking of the Africans over there in the UK, you think that everything that you're doing right now, you just solely just invented yourself. You just thought about this. Y'all were just sitting there stewing one day and y'all were like, yeah, we should just start rapping. We should just start doing drill. We should just start styling ourselves like this. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You got other Africans hyping up the UK Africans, talking about like, yeah, everybody's trying to find, their own waves and making their own thing. This one African girl was talking about how that K-pop has their own music that's away from Black Americans. Sweetheart, I'm so sorry that you're so ignorant and stupid and deaf on the situation when it deals with music and how it is that Black music influences everybody. It is all over the world, especially at this moment in time right now. Like you do realize that because, again, we pretty much built the foundation for everybody else's music to be acceptable as it is currently at this moment in time. Because let me tell you something. Back in the 1950s and 60s, there would be no way in the world that they would be pulling up into a local gas station or a local store or a restaurant and they're just magically playing all of y'all's music. No. You can thank Black Americans for that. You can thank Black Americans for that. Like I said, you got what? Burna Boy, he got his music playing. You got K-pop music playing. You got what's the other dude name? Bad Bunny. You got all of these other people, right? They got music, and all of their stuff is getting played directly in American establishments. And people tend to think that they just did it on their own. No, you didn't. It is because of Black Americans. Like I said, the only reason that you guys are even welcomed here, you can even be comfortable, you can even put your feet directly up and sit on any type of couch, or let alone be as disrespectful as you are and put your dirty foot and shoes directly on somebody's coffee table or counter, is due to the fact of Black Americans. But you guys think that as soon as you come directly here that y'all really doing something big. And as she stated before, that it's very interesting how Africans that don't have a history here want to come here and talk about like, oh yeah, if I were to come there, I could do so much better than you Black Americans. Yeah, I bet you could. You got a fresh slate. You don't have the type of history here. You don't have the back and forths that we have. You don't have to deal with the bloodshed and the sacrifice. You don't have to see that every day. You don't have to think about that because it's not your history. Right? It's not a part of something that you grow up directly in. But as she stated, and she is an African, if with the mentality and everything that she knows, if she were to go over there to Africa, she could more than likely become rich. And she could. See how that works? See how she doesn't have the same history as you have? She doesn't have the exact same thought processes. She don't technically, in a sense, really have the exact same culture that you have. And she can more than likely get it directly from the mud. Isn't that exactly the same thing that Africans and many other immigrants say when they look directly at Black Americans? And you guys want to wave the finger, hold your noses up, talking about like, oh, how can I come from this, that, and a third world country, come directly over here, and I can just sit up there and run faster than Black Americans. I'm an entrepreneur. I got multitudes of bank accounts. I got multitudes of businesses. And I got this large house and this. I'm like, I didn't know that this was a competition. I didn't know that this was a race. And again, you just came into this race within like 2 seconds. We've been doing this whole march, this whole song and dance, this whole track and field for all intents and purposes eons. So it's like you're not really doing anything. Whatever you have accomplished, we have tons of Black Americans who have accomplished that and more. Not to even mention the Black inventors that we have that still don't even really get the credit that they actually deserve. And those same Black inventors made things that are all around the world. The same world that is still disrespectful to Black Americans still to this day. Crazy how that works. Crazy how that works. And then also the Africans are the exact same ones that want to turn around and be like, let's get away from this whole thing of Black. But everything is just American. Everything is just, there's no reason to sit up there and just space it out as this and space it out as that. Then realistically, when it deals with anybody else's history, it should be American history, right? If it happened here. For all intents and purposes, it shouldn't be no Irish history. Shouldn't be no Irish stories. Shouldn't be no Scottish. Shouldn't be none of that. It should just be American history. But it's not going to be that way, right? It's not going to be that way. We're not also going to sit up there and call something, let's say like St. Patrick's Day, right? Let's call it Americans Day. Let's sit up there and do that. right? Instead of the walk of 1,000 tears, the walk of 1,000 Americans. How about that? How about we sit up there and do that, right? But yeah, we're not doing that. We're not doing it. And these are also, you know, amongst the same groups of people that when it dealt with 9/11, guess what? When you had certain populace of the group that were being very much prosecuted because of actions of others directly out there, nobody was trying to sit up there and sit idly by and be like, oh no, they're Americans, they're Americans. No, 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 no. People like, no, they're outsiders, they're sleeper cells, they're this, they're that. They wanted to make sure to separate directly from that because they didn't want to incur the wrath of the other folks directly out there and how it is that they felt specifically during that time because of everything that transpired. Like I said, I don't know. You know, maybe I got a little bit too far off on the mark, you know, directly on that one. But I feel like, you know, the main point still stands of how it is that a lot of these people who are not from the United States, born and raised, who have a lineage directly in slavery, when it deals with Black Americans generationally and what it is that we have gone through and faced, still past, present, and future. It's amazing how a lot of these people basically come here to disrespect Black Americans. They always have all of the smoke and energy for Black Americans, but they never have the smoke and energy, the same song and dance for everybody else. Crazy how that works. It makes it seem as though that this is a deliberately targeted attack versus one group of people for whatever reason. And again, this is happening by a variety of hands directly out here. But maybe it's just me. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about this video and everything that I stated in the comment description below. And as always, peace, love, and stay tuned for the next video.